In a world filled with pain and loneliness, Calum walked the school halls, feeling the sharp sting of mockery from his peers, especially from the charming Arik and the beautiful Lysandra. One day, seeking escape from their cruelty, he stumbled into the forbidden forest, where a mysterious light called to him. When Calum touched an ancient artifact, a powerful energy surged through him, awakening hidden abilities. Now he faced a choice. Should he use his powers for revenge or strive to become someone greater? The school hallways buzzed with laughter and chatter, but to Calum, the noise felt like a distant storm. He walked with his head down, clutching his books tightly to his chest. Each step echoed the feeling of isolation that wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. He could hear the voices of his classmates, sharp and mocking. "Look, it's Calum, the invisible boy," one of them sneered. Calum's cheeks burned as he quickened his pace, trying to escape the spotlight that always seemed to find him. In a corner, Arik stood with his friends, his charming smile lighting up the room. Next to him, Lysandra laughed, a sound like music that only deepened Calum's sense of longing. Why did they always have to stand together, radiating confidence and beauty, while he faded into the shadows? Calum pressed on, wishing he could be like them, wishing he could be seen. As he turned a corner, the bustling halls faded behind him, replaced by the dense trees of the forbidden forest. It was a place he had always been warned about, a realm where darkness thrived, yet it felt like a refuge. He needed to escape. The weight of the world pushed him deeper into the woods, far from the laughter that haunted him. Suddenly, a soft glow caught his eye. Calum paused, his heart racing. There, nestled between the roots of an ancient tree, was a light that flickered like a candle. It danced in the shadows, beckoning him closer. "What is that?" he whispered to himself, curiosity overcoming caution. He stepped forward, his breath catching as the light shimmered in response, as if it knew him. With trembling fingers, Calum reached out and touched the source of the glow. The moment his skin met the cool surface of the ancient artifact, a rush of energy coursed through him. It was unlike anything he had ever felt. Electricity, warmth, and a whisper of power that awakened something deep within. He staggered back, eyes wide in disbelief. "What just happened?" he gasped. A flicker of hope ignited in his heart, a small flame amidst the despair that had consumed him for so long. But with this newfound energy came a heavy weight, the choice of how to wield it. Should he seek vengeance against Arik and Lysandra, the two who had tormented him for so long? The thought was tempting, a dark promise of retribution that made his fists clench. Just imagine their faces when he finally stood tall, no longer the invisible boy, but a force to be reckoned with. Yet, another thought crept in, softer and more daunting. What if he could use this power for something greater? What if he could become a hero, someone who protected those who couldn't protect themselves? The internal battle raged within him, and for the first time, Calum felt the weight of his decisions. "What do I truly want?" he whispered into the silence of the forest. As he stood there, the glow of the artifact fading, Calum realized he was at a crossroads. He could feel the pull of darkness, but also the promise of something incredible. The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for him to make a choice. In that moment, he understood that the power he had discovered was not just a means to an end. It was a chance to redefine himself. "Whatever happens next, I need to choose wisely," Calum murmured. The forest, once a sanctuary from his pain, now felt like the beginning of something much bigger. He stepped back, the artifact still warm in his mind, and began to walk back towards the world he had fled. He knew he could not hide forever, and perhaps, just perhaps, he could find a way to change his story. The question loomed large. Would he embrace the darkness or seek the light? Calum sat alone in the corner of his classroom, his gaze drifting out the window. The laughter and chatter of his classmates echoed around him, but he felt like a ghost, invisible and untouched by the joy that filled the room. Memories of his childhood rushed back, reminding him of the days when he had tried so hard to fit in. He remembered the games he had played in the schoolyard, only to be left out as others formed tight-knit groups around him. Why can't I be like them? He often wondered, his heart heavy with the weight of rejection. As he picked at his lunch, a flashback hit him hard. He recalled the day in the park when he had mustered the courage to join a group of children playing tag. He had run with all his might, laughing and shouting, but when he tripped and fell, the laughter turned to cruel jeers. "Look at the loser!" one boy had shouted, and the rest had joined in. The memory stung like a fresh wound, and Calum felt the familiar ache of loneliness. "Calum, are you okay?" A soft voice broke through his thoughts. It was Eldrin, the wise mentor whom he had met in the Forbidden Forest. Calum looked up, surprised to see him there, a gentle smile on his face. I'm fine," Calum replied, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. Eldrin could see through his facade. "Do not hide your feelings, young one. They are a part of you," Eldrin said, his voice calm and steady. "You have a great deal of potential within you, but it is buried beneath your fears and doubts." Calum sighed, feeling the weight of Eldrin's words. "I just don't understand why I'm different. Why can't I be like Arik or Lysandra?" In that moment, he felt a surge of warmth and strength. He concentrated, and for the first time, he managed to summon a small glow from his palms. "I did it!" he exclaimed, his face lighting up with excitement. "Yes, you did. That is just the beginning," Eldrin smiled. "But there is a darkness looming, Calum. An ancient evil known as the Shadow Lord threatens our world. You have a role in this conflict, and it is time for you to embrace it." Calum's heart raced. "What do you mean? How can I possibly help against something so powerful?" "You have the potential to become a hero, but you must believe in yourself. The Shadow Lord feeds on fear and doubt. If you let those feelings control you, he will win," Eldrin explained, his expression serious. As the weight of Eldrin's words sank in, Calum felt the familiar stirrings of fear, but alongside it was a glimmer of determination. He realized he could no longer hide from his past or his potential. The journey ahead would not be easy, but with Eldrin's guidance, he could forge a new path. "Then I will try," Calum said, his voice steady. "I will not let my fears hold me back." Eldrin nodded, pride shining in his eyes. "That is the spirit. Remember, your journey is just beginning. You are not alone." With newfound resolve, Calum took a step forward, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. The shadow of his past no longer loomed over him. Instead, it became a part of the strength he would build upon. As days turned into weeks, Calum found himself deep in training with Eldrin. The wise mentor guided him through a series of challenges, each one designed to test his strength and will. In the early mornings, the sun barely peeked over the horizon, casting long shadows in the forest, clearing where they trained. "Focus, Calum," Eldrin instructed, his voice calm yet firm. "Each strike must come from within. Feel the energy around you." Calum nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. He swung a wooden sword, missing the target by a wide margin. Frustration bubbled within him. "I don't understand. Why is this so hard?" Eldrin smiled gently, sensing the boy's struggle. "Strength is not just about power. It is about control. You must learn to harness what lies inside you." Each day brought new trials. Sometimes they practiced combat, while other times, Eldrin taught him how to channel his energy into spells. Calum felt himself growing stronger, but doubts lingered in the back of his mind. Would he ever be good enough to face the Shadow Lord? Meanwhile, a bond began to form between Calum and Lysandra. She had joined the rebellion, her spirit fierce and determined. They often trained together, sharing laughter and encouragement. One afternoon, as they practiced their footwork, Lysandra paused and looked at him with bright eyes. "You've improved so much, Calum," she said, a smile spreading across her face. "I can see the power within you. You are becoming a true warrior." Calum felt warmth spread through him at her words, but the flutter in his stomach confused him. "Thanks, Lysandra. I just hope I can live up to everyone's expectations." "You will," she replied, stepping closer. "You have a strength that goes beyond what you can see. Just believe in yourself." He glanced away, trying to hide the blush creeping up his cheeks. Feelings for her were blossoming, but he was unsure how to express them. As the days passed, the threat of the Shadow Lord loomed ever closer. One evening, while they practiced in the fading light, the ground trembled beneath them. A chilling howl echoed through the trees, sending shivers down Calum's spine. "What was that?" he asked, gripping his sword tightly. Lysandra narrowed her eyes. "It could be his minions. We should be ready for anything." The tension in the air thickened as they prepared for the worst. Suddenly, dark figures emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with malice. Calum's heart raced. This was it, the first true test of his abilities. "Stay close to me," Lysandra shouted, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. As the minions approached, Calum felt a surge of panic. He could run, escape into the forest, or he could stand his ground. His mind raced with the memories of his past, the loneliness and ridicule he had endured. This was his moment to break free. Summoning all his courage, Calum stepped forward, raising his sword. "We will not back down," he declared, his voice stronger than he felt. The minions charged at them, and in that moment, Calum felt a rush of energy flow through him. He swung his sword, connecting with the first creature, and to his surprise, it dissolved into shadows. "Keep fighting, Calum," Lysandra called out, her own weapon flashing in the dim light as she defended their position. Together, they fought back the waves of darkness, each strike building Calum's confidence. He realized that he was not alone. Lysandra fought beside him, and for the first time, he felt a sense of belonging. As the last of the minions fell, Calum stood panting, his heart racing with adrenaline. The weight of the battle settled on his shoulders, and he looked to Lysandra, who was catching her breath. "We did it," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Calum nodded, a smile breaking across his face. "I can't believe it. I stood my ground." "You did more than that," she replied softly, placing a hand on his arm. "You fought bravely. I knew you had it in you." In that moment, amidst the fading light and the echoes of their triumph, Calum began to understand the true weight of his responsibilities. The fear of failure lingered, but he also felt a flicker of hope. He was not just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for Lysandra and for all those who believed in him. As night fell, Calum's heart swelled with determination. He had taken a significant step on his journey, and there was no turning back now. The air was thick with tension as Calum and his allies prepared for the mission to infiltrate the Shadow Lord's lair. The dark fortress loomed ahead, shrouded in mist and danger. Calum felt a mix of fear and determination. He looked at his friends, their faces reflecting the same resolve. "We can do this," he said, trying to instill hope. "Together." Lysandra stepped forward, her eyes shining with courage. "We have trained for this. We know the risks, but we also know our strength. We must stick together, no matter what happens." Calum nodded, grateful for her support. The bond they had formed over their shared struggles fortified his spirit. As they moved closer to the fortress, they faced their first challenge. A series of traps lay before them, hidden in the shadows. Eldrin had warned them about these dangers, but now they felt far more real. "I'll go first," Calum offered, stepping into the darkness. His heart raced as he carefully navigated the path, listening for any signs of danger. "Just follow my lead." One by one, They followed him, each step a test of their unity. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the air. A hidden blade swung dangerously close to Calum, but he ducked just in time. "Watch out!" he shouted, heart pounding. The others quickly scrambled to avoid the trap, adrenaline surging through them. As they pressed on, they faced more traps, fire jets, pits of spikes, and illusions that sought to confuse them. Each obstacle drew them closer together, their trust in one another growing stronger. "We can't lose focus," Lysandra reminded them, her voice steady. "Stay sharp." Finally, they reached the heart of the lair. The vast chamber was dark and cold, filled with an eerie silence. Calum felt a chill run down his spine. He stepped forward, his instincts screaming that something was wrong. "Where is he?" he whispered, scanning the shadows. Then, a figure emerged from the darkness, the Shadow Lord himself. A laugh echoed through the chamber, deep and menacing. "Welcome, brave souls," he taunted, his eyes glinting with malice. "You've come far, but you will not leave here alive." Calum's heart sank as he recognized the figure. The Shadow Lord bore a striking resemblance to someone from his past, a figure who had haunted his childhood nightmares. Anger surged within him. "You!" Calum shouted, stepping forward defiantly. "You are the one who caused my pain." The Shadow Lord's smile widened. "Ah, Calum, it's delightful to see you again, though I must admit, I expected you to be weaker." A fierce internal conflict raged within Calum. Betrayal and anger battled with the desire to prove himself. Lysandra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Calum, remember why we are here. Don't let him get to you." Her voice was a steady anchor in the storm of emotions swirling in his mind. "I know," Calum replied, shaking his head to clear it. "I can't let him distract me. We need to focus on the mission." The Shadow Lord watched, amusement dancing in his eyes. "You think you can defeat me? You are nothing but a lost boy." His words cut deep, but Calum stood firm. "I am not lost anymore," he declared, his voice steady. "I have friends who believe in me, and I will not fail them." With that, Calum took a deep breath and drew upon the powers he had begun to harness. He felt the energy coursing through him, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. This was his moment. Lysandra stepped beside him, her own power radiating. "We face him together," she said, her gaze fierce. "We will not let fear win." Calum nodded, feeling a surge of solidarity. They were more than allies. They were a family united by purpose. The Shadow Lord, sensing their determination, let out a roar of laughter that echoed through the chamber. "Very well," he sneered. "Let's see if your unity can withstand the darkness." As the confrontation loomed, Calum felt a mix of vengeance and the desire for redemption. He knew this battle was not just against the Shadow Lord, but also against the shadows of his past. With the support of his friends, he was ready to face whatever came next. The showdown was imminent, and Calum was prepared to fight for his future. The air was thick with tension as the final battle loomed. Calum stood at the edge of the battlefield, his heart pounding in his chest. Before him stretched a dark expanse where shadows danced and flickered, hinting at the presence of the Shadow Lord and his minions. He could feel the weight of his friends behind him, Lysandra, Eldrin, and the others, each one ready to fight by his side. "Are you ready, Calum?" Lysandra asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. She stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "I have to be," Calum replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "This is our chance to end this once and for all." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the battlefield, Calum took a deep breath. He remembered all the training, the struggles, and the lessons Eldrin had taught him. Each moment had led him to this point, where he would face not just the Shadow Lord, but also his own doubts and fears. Suddenly, a chilling laugh echoed through the air. The Shadow Lord appeared, a dark figure cloaked in shadows. His eyes glowed with malice, and a wicked smile spread across his face. Ah, Calum, the little boy who dared to challenge me. You are brave, but bravery alone will not save you. Calum's hands clenched into fists. I am not afraid of you. I fight for my friends and for my home. The Shadow Lord's laughter grew louder, and with a wave of his hand, he summoned his minions. They surged forward, dark figures with glowing eyes ready to attack. Calum's heart raced as he shouted, "Stand together!" The battle erupted around them. Calum fought with all his might, dodging blows and striking back with newfound power. He could feel the energy flowing through him, a force he had never known before. But amidst the chaos, dark whispers echoed in his mind. Why do you fight for them? They left you behind before. What if you fail? He shook his head, trying to silence the voices. I won't let you win, he muttered to himself, focusing on the fight. He saw Lysandra fighting fiercely, her determination shining through the darkness. Calum! To your left! She shouted, dodging an enemy. He turned just in time to block an attack aimed at her, channeling his energy and pushing the foe back. But as the battle raged, a moment of sacrifice loomed. He saw one of his friends, injured and surrounded by foes. No! Calum yelled, his heart racing. He had to make a choice, save his friend or confront the Shadow Lord directly. Go! Save them! Eldrin shouted from across the field, his voice filled with urgency. We can hold him off! Calum's mind raced. Could he really abandon his friend? The instincts of a leader battled with the instincts of a friend. I can't just leave them! He shouted back, feeling torn. But in that moment, he understood. True strength meant protecting those he loved, even at a cost. I will save you, he called out, rushing toward his friend. With fierce determination, he fought his way through the chaos, taking down enemies left and right. He reached his friend just in time, pulling them from danger. But as he turned back, he saw the Shadow Lord advancing, ready to unleash a devastating attack on his allies. Calum! Lysandra screamed, her eyes wide with fear. Look out! In that split second, Calum made the hardest choice of all. He raised his hands, channeling all his energy to confront the Shadow Lord. You will not harm them, he cried, feeling the surge of power within him. A blinding light erupted from his hands, clashing against the darkness of the Shadow Lord. The ground shook, and the air crackled with energy. Calum felt the weight of his choices, the sacrifices he had made, the friendships he had forged. As the dust settled, Calum stood alone, panting and weary. The Shadow Lord was defeated, but victory came at a cost. He looked around at the battlefield, the cries of his friends ringing in his ears. Some were wounded, others were lost. Lysandra rushed to his side, her eyes brimming with tears. We did it, Calum, but at what price? Calum's heart ached as he took in the aftermath. We won, but it hurts, he admitted, his voice trembling. Together, they shared a moment of silence, reflecting on their journey and the scars they now bore. Though the battle was won, the road ahead remained uncertain. But in that moment, amidst the pain and loss, they found strength in each other, a bond that would carry them through the darkness that lay ahead. As they held on to each other, hope flickered anew. The journey was far from over, but they would face it together, united in spirit and purpose. As the sun rose over Eldoria, Calum walked through the village, the air filled with the scent of fresh bread and blooming flowers. He was back, but the warmth of home felt different now. People greeted him with smiles and cheers, calling him a hero. Yet, deep inside, Calum felt a weight pressing on his chest. He had saved them, but could he live up to their hopes? Look, it's Calum, a child shouted, running up to him. You saved us from the Shadow Lord. You're the best. Calum knelt down, forcing a smile. Thank you, little one. But remember, it was all of us together who fought against the darkness. The child nodded, eyes wide with admiration. Can you teach me to be brave like you?" "Bravery comes in many forms," Calum replied. "Sometimes it means standing tall when everything feels wrong." As he stood up, Calum noticed a group of villagers gathering at the center of the square. They were discussing how to rebuild Eldoria after the battle. He felt a pull to join them, knowing he must help restore what had been lost. "Calum," Eldrin called out as he approached, his eyes shining with pride. "You have returned. It is time to unite our people." "Yes, Eldrin," Calum said, his voice steady. "I want to help. We need to bring everyone together." The wise mentor nodded. "Your journey has changed you, Calum. You understand now that true strength is not just power, but the bonds we create with others." As they walked toward the gathering, Calum felt the energy of the village pulsing around him. He could see people sharing stories of their bravery, laughing, and hugging one another, grateful to be alive. Calum took a deep breath, trying to shake off the feeling of inadequacy. When he reached the group, he cleared his throat. "Everyone, I know the battle was hard, and many of us lost so much, but together, we can rebuild Eldoria stronger than ever. We are not just survivors, we are a family." The crowd fell silent, eyes fixed on him. Then, a woman stepped forward. "You fought for us, Calum. We believe in you. How can we help?" "Let's start by cleaning up the village and rebuilding the homes that were destroyed. We need to share our skills and work side by side," he said, feeling more confident. "If we all pitch in, we can bring back the heart of Eldoria." People nodded, murmuring in agreement. Calum felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he could lead them after all. As the day wore on, they worked together, clearing debris and rebuilding walls. Calum felt a sense of purpose in every nail he hammered and every stone he lifted. He noticed Lysandra among the villagers, her hair shining in the sun as she helped to plant new flowers in the garden. "Calum," she called out, waving him over. "Look at this. We can make Eldoria beautiful again." He walked over, his heart lifting at the sight of her smile. "I'm glad you're here, Lysandra. Your spirit brings light to this place." "Together, we can do anything," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "Even turn these ruins into a garden." As they worked side by side, their laughter filled the air. The connection between them deepened, each moment a reminder of how far they had come. After hours of hard work, the villagers gathered to celebrate their progress with a feast. That night, they lit lanterns and shared stories under the stars. Calum and Lysandra found a quiet spot away from the crowd. "You know," she said softly, "you've changed so much. You're no longer just the lonely boy from school." Calum looked at her, feeling warmth spread through him. "I still feel that loneliness sometimes. But with all of you here, I know I can face anything. Remember, it's okay to feel that way," she assured him. "You have us now. We're a family." As the night went on, Calum reflected on his journey. He realized that true strength came from the connections he had forged, the friendships that had blossomed, and the community that had risen from the ashes of despair. He was not just a hero. He was the last guardian of Eldoria, and he would do everything to protect this new life they were building together. Share this story if you believe that unity and love can rebuild even the most shattered places. Leave a comment about a time when you came together with others to overcome a challenge, and subscribe for more inspiring tales like this one.